When Benjamin Franklin said lost time is never found again, he could very well have been talking about planning for college, specifically how you will pay for those college years. Now, the sooner you start planning, the better. And your host, Brock Jolly, has strategies and insights that might help. I'm Patrice Sikora. Brock, good to be with you today.
Great to be here. Thanks, Patrice.
All right, Brock, we've talked, and you know I put 3 boys through college, and it was just a number. Well, it was a number of years ago, but the sticker shock then was nothing like it is now. Just how important is that sticker number?
Well, it's a good starting point, right? It's a way to compare schools to one another, but there's a big difference between the sticker price and let's call it value. There's a big difference between what the sticker price is and what a family might actually pay. And so understanding that nuance is really critically important. And understanding if a family will qualify for need-based aid or potentially merit aid, et cetera, and what they will actually pay is what goes into that equation. We see a big mistake that families make is they look at the sticker price and they often think, well, we could never afford to go to that school because they're looking at the sticker price and they don't understand all the nuances behind that in terms of the sticker price maybe not being what they will actually pay. And so doing a little bit of legwork ahead of time is really critically important to understand the nuances of that and what it may look like. And it may be different school by school. And that's the work that we do here at the College Funding Coach.
How about those parents who say, oh, Junior or Missy is going to get a scholarship. They're going to be playing golf or basketball. How realistic is that?
Well, look, I hope that they do. And whether that is golf or basketball or academic or playing the cello or whatever it may be, there's lots of scholarship money out there. The reality is, though, that less than 0.5% of students receive a full ride scholarship. So if you look at the statistics in terms of scholarships, the number right now, according to JP Morgan, is that 60% of students receive scholarships of some level, but the average scholarship is only $8,000. And so when you're looking at sticker prices that might be $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 per year, sure, nice to have $8,000, but it may not go as far as you think. And if you use athletics like you had suggested, oftentimes these sports, like as an example, baseball, I believe offers 12 scholarships, but those 12 scholarships get split among something like 45 student athletes. And so you might not get a full scholarship until maybe senior year, and that's only if you're one of the best players on the team. The freshman might get an eighth of a scholarship or a quarter of a scholarship or something like that. And so just understanding those statistics, understanding that reality and building a plan is so critical, even if Junior or Missy is the greatest golfer or basketball player ever, at least in that family.
All right. So you're talking basically a strategy here. Where does a parent start? Where do they learn these strategies? What strategies are there for them?
Well, I'm admittedly biased, but I think that we at the College Funding Coach, our job, our role is really to help families understand and navigate the maze of saving, planning, paying for college. Because what's critical is every family is a little bit different. And even though the process is generally the same, your kid and where they might want to go to school and the number of kids in your family and what your financial situation looks like, all of those are pieces of this puzzle to help families navigate and develop a plan. And that's what we do, is sit down with families, help them understand where they are, look at those schools or potential schools. Like you said at the top of the recording, the sooner you start, the better. And I'll give you a great example. We had a family who came to us 2 months ago, and conveniently, dad had gotten a nice little bonus from work and said, hey, we want to put this money into a Section 529 college savings plan. And with 529 plans, there's a special rule that allows you to put the annual contribution in for 5 years worth of contributions. So right now, the annual amount that you can put in is $19,000. 19,000 times 5 is $95,000. And so he said, hey, we want to put $95,000 in. Now, he's got, I think, a 5-year-old right now. And I said, honestly, I wouldn't do it. I said, I think it's a great idea if you want to save the $95,000, but there's a few variables that we really don't know. I don't know if your kid's going to go to school, where they're going to go to college, what college is going to cost, what's going to happen in the market. And one of the inherent problems with Section 529 plans is that money has to be used for education to avoid penalties and things like that. So just building a strategy and giving yourself maximum flexibility and control, I think, is critical.
We'll talk more about the timeline. If you've got a 5-year-old and you come in, what do you suggest? Where would they put that money?
Yeah, it's funny. I just presented yesterday at Boston College to a group of counselors, both high school and college counselors, and got that same question. So I'll give you the same answer that I gave to them. They asked the question that preceded it. They said, when's the best time to start? I said, well, we usually recommend on the way home from the delivery room. That's kind of the best way. But if you're a parent who maybe you didn't start on the way, you didn't swing by your financial advisor's office on the way home from the delivery room, the best time to start is probably right now. And I think the key is, to your question of like, where do you put it? It depends. It depends on a lot of other variables. Are you going to qualify for need-based aid or not? If you've got a 2-year-old or you've got a 7-year-old, it's probably a different strategy than if you've got a 12-year-old or a 17-year-old. And that really is the art and the science of good college funding planning. You don't know where the 3-year-old's going to go to college. You might have a better sense of where the 15-year-old's going to go to college, right? Are they a high academic achiever? Are they potentially going to qualify for merit aid? Are you going to need to lean on need-based aid? All of those factors, Patrice, go into helping a family navigate this and determine what strategies make the most sense for them.
Talk a little bit about the difference between needs-based and merit-based.
Sure. I always say need-based aid is about the state of your wealth, whereas merit-based aid is about, maybe we'll call that the state of your health, meaning that you are a great student, you're a great athlete, you're a great musician, etc. So the idea is merit money is the school wants to attract you. Or it could also be that the Kiwanis Club or McDonald's or Coca-Cola or whomever gives you a scholarship because you are great at some certain skill or talent. And so really the key here is understanding that, and then put a layer on top of that to understand that it could be different at different schools. And I'll use that as an example. So let's say that your student has been, I think you told me at one point you had one of your sons went to Brown, right?
No, URI.
URI, got
Same neighborhood.
That's right. Okay. So I'll use those two as an example, right? So I talked to a parent this afternoon who his son is at Brown. His daughter is going to Rice. He said, so we're a Brown Rice family. I'm like, that's kind of funny to me.
It is actually.
So, but let's use Brown and URI right in one another's backyard. And I think you did tell me that your son who went to URI got some scholarship money originally, right?
Full ride, yeah, but it didn't last. He didn't like it.
I don't know your son, so I'm going to totally stereotype here, but let's say that your son had been accepted at Brown. Well, Brown doesn't give any merit money. Now, that same student could potentially get accepted at the University of Rhode Island and get lots of merit money, just like he did. And again, I don't know the details, but that's where that overlay of understanding the school, because the top 20 or 30 or 40 schools in the country generally don't give a whole lot of merit money. They're entirely focused on need-based aid. So the need-based aid says that's your ability to pay versus the merit-based money, which is your ability to play. Your ability to play a sport, to play the cello, to speak Russian language fluently, whatever it may be. That's where the merit money comes into play. And that's where it may be different depending on the school.
So basically, do you bring something that benefits the school? That's
right. And without totally nerding out on this, you can actually kind of read between the lines. There's something called the common data set. And the common data set, if you know how to read it, you can see what the average scores are, the average test scores, the average grade point average, et cetera, of their incoming class. And so your student might be in a situation where they're well above the average. Or it could also be that, they need a first trumpet in the school band. And so those are situations where there might be money available to attract your student to that school. And so understanding that process, understanding the business behind the business, I think can be really helpful.
Well, you also know that I had twins and they both went to school at the same time. We did not see much of a benefit there, but are there ways for parents of multiples?
Well, when your kids went to school, Patrice, the answer was yes, because the way that the formula used to work is they took what was then called the expected family contribution, which was the output of the FAFSA, and they would divide it by the number of family members in school simultaneously. And so in your case, when you had 2 or 3 students in school simultaneously, they would take that number and divide it by 2 or 3. A few years ago, the Department of Education came out with what was called the FAFSA Simplification Act. I don't know that it really simplified anything, but one of the things that it did do is it disallowed division by the number of students in school simultaneously. Now, some other things did change. So for a lot of families, it didn't make a huge difference. But what I hear from so many families who do have multiple kids in school simultaneously is, gosh, that's not fair, that we're now not allowed to divide by the number of kids in school simultaneously. I remind them that for years, families who didn't have multiple kids in school simultaneously said that wasn't fair. And so maybe they're evening the playing field here a little bit. But as of today, they are no longer dividing by the number of kids in school simultaneously.
All right. Now we're talking about numbers and tuition here. So let's just go into inflation. That's not something that you pay much attention to, but it's around you everywhere. It's at the supermarket. It's in the school tuition.
Yeah, I really call it the stealth tax because inflation kind of sneaks up on you. And here's another problem. Like, think about it. If you had the foresight to start planning for your child's college education the day they were born, and you looked at what college cost, and then you fast forward 18 years and you said, hey, we were consistent. We did everything we were supposed to do. We saved just the right amount of money. The market cooperated. It did exactly what we had projected. In more instances than not, you would have a woefully inadequate amount of money saved up because you hadn't planned for inflation. I just know this statistic off the top of my head. If we look back to January of 2000 through April of 2026, the cost of college increased by 194%.
Wow.
It's exponentially more than anything else in the economy. Now, that was exactly true until here just recently, because we've just recently seen a big spike in energy prices for gasoline and oil and everything. But still, college has gone up exponentially more than anything else in the economy. So how do you plan for that? And by the way, like, over 50% of the cost of college is paid out of checking, savings, and CDs. These are investments that are getting very low rates of return.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're in those type of accounts, you're not even keeping pace with inflation. And so the key is really to do something. So you ask the question, like, where does a family start? At some level, it doesn't matter. But the key is to do something and to start setting that money aside. I always say, make decisions today that your future self will thank you for. College is not an exception. And building strategies for college and retirement simultaneously.
That's the key. Not just college, but it's retirement too. You're constantly told, don't beggar your retirement account to send your kid to college. But you're a parent. What do you do? What do you think?
That's usually the last big hurdle before retirement, is paying for the kid's college education. And I always put an asterisk next to that, because paying for your kid's college education is different for every family. So please don't think for a second that I'm suggesting a parent has to pay for their kid's college education. It's different for every family. But what we do is we help families make decisions that are right for them. And if you think about it, when you go and you qualify for a mortgage, you're going to buy a new house. You have to qualify. You have to go through underwriting by the bank to be approved for a mortgage. That doesn't really exist in the world of college. And one of the software tools that we utilize helps us make what we call our college pre-approval. It helps us sit down with a family, look at their financial situation, build that financial plan to say, okay, what's realistic? And if you or your child is going to go take out massive student loans, what's the impact either on you or on your child? And we really want to help you make those smart decisions, because college, probably more than anything else in the financial world in which we operate, is such an emotional decision. And I think the key is if we can help families navigate it and at a certain level, extract the emotion from that decision and really just help a family make educated and informed decisions. Look, this is an exciting time. I love being part of it. I love the pomp and circumstance of higher education, but I also want to help families make intelligent and informed decisions that are not going to bankrupt mom and dad's ability to retire at the time and in the lifestyle they want. And by the same token, is not going to have a 22 or 23-year-old recent college graduate have to move back in with mom to be able to pay the bills,
right? Or
to, not be able to go out on a date as a 24-year-old or whatever the case may be, or, it makes so much impact on future decisions. And so our goal is to get in front of that and really help families make smart, comprehensive decisions throughout this process.
In your practice, Brock, have you seen any pullback in those people thinking about college? Do families come in and say, this is what we're looking at, what's the reality? And then say, well, maybe it's not right.
I get a lot of that. And especially with the advent of or emergence of technologies and things like that, obviously including artificial intelligence, where families say, well, gosh, with AI, all of these jobs are going to be obsolete. Or they say, hey, look at Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates or whomever. They don't have college degrees. Well, you got to understand, these are sort of the statistical outliers in that equation. And it's not to say that your child might not also be a statistical outlier, but I wouldn't necessarily say for my 3-year-old or my 8-year-old or even my 15-year-old, hey, we're not going to save for college because they can figure it out on their own. I would rather a family say, hey, let's set aside money. And that way, if and when our child goes to school, we've got a plan. If they don't go to college, gosh, guess what? Now you've got a great vacation fund. You've got a better retirement fund, whatever the case may be. But I think that's a way better situation than the alternative, which is to have not saved any money and then having to go take out student loans that may be at, in today's day and age might be at 8-9% for student loans in some cases.
Well, Brock, we've covered a lot of ground here, but is there something we have not touched on you want to make sure we do?
Well, I think the key woven throughout this conversation is you'd be better served to start early, save a little bit, grow it over time, make it automatic so you don't have to think about it. Give yourself flexibility, give yourself control. And what our advisors at the College Funding Coach do is help families navigate that entire process. We help them to make smart decisions, again, balancing the myriad needs, whether it's retirement, college, vacation, next home purchase, whatever the case may be, and really make smart decisions around this so that college doesn't become a point of anxiety or stress. It's an exciting time for all these families, and we love being part of that and want to help as many families as possible navigate this process.
All right. Well, how can listeners reach you, Brock?
Best thing is through our website. Our website is www.thecollegefundingcoach.org. Lots of information, lots of resources. You can contact us through that website as well. If you want to call us directly, the direct phone number is 703-424-2401, or toll free, if anybody uses toll free numbers anymore, which is 800-969-2362.
And folks, remember to follow this podcast, because then you'll know when a new episode is ready for you. And please share and like with people who can use it. Thanks for being with us.